Here's Justin Ancheta here from SF Garnish Music Production. I want to give a big shout out to the Garnish Music Network for inviting us out every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Check it out. Today, we're going to be talking about what we've been talking about for about 3 weeks now, which is getting ready for a live show and how to set up your digital audio workstation to support you, making sure that your latencies and buffers are working in your favor, and that you guys can have your backing tracks or live looping set up the way that you want to. Let's get into this. This is an episode of West Coast Wednesdays. That's right. And the people are cheering for you for joining us today. And we just want to invite you guys out here every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. My name is Justin, once again, with SF Garnish Music Production. Here's Ableton Live, right over here. And we're going to get into the basics of how to set up a session here using Session View. This is a pretty complex session. Look how wide it is. My goal today, if you guys are curious how I got to this point, you guys can see in the previous sections. This is episode 3, I believe, of 4. Talking about setting up your digital audio workstation for a live show. And a lot of these are grayed out, or these are set to automation, right? So our live guitar track and our live vocal. And then we have these different backing vocal tracks and guitar tracks coming in here. Like I said, we're going to be cleaning this up. So let's go ahead and just make it to where you guys can see the entire screen. And I'm just going to play you a portion of this, okay? So it comes in with, let's make sure this is working out. All right, so no automation going down there. It's just pretty much going to stay in this location. We have our bass way over here on this side. And these are just kind of dummy tracks. Let's start that right there. So these are automated down. Like I said, if you guys are curious how we did this, check out the previous recordings we have in our YouTube playlist, West Coast Wednesdays playlist. All right, there were some notes from the band to do specific things and also notes from myself. What is this about? The count in. 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's in record mode there. Okay. So all of these extra tracks that I'm not really using, I would like to delete them if need be. Now this right here is a sweep that we may want to use. Let's make sure. So this auto filter doesn't look like it's engaged. There it is. It is engaged. So I can go press stop all, and let's listen to that. All right. I want to try and use that. And I think that we should probably try and put some effects on this as well. Say auto pan. Let's get a few different things going on. Maybe some type of amp. I'll just type in amp here in the upper right-hand corner in my search menu. It's not going to be in my effects area, but if I go to audio effects, drive and color, these are some presets here. Let's go ahead and just put a screamer on that. See what happens. Great. In the very beginning, it has that kind of jumpy sound. So one way that we could do that is automate our volume as well. So we need utility for that. Let's go into utilities and put at the very end another utility and our gain. Utility gain. So anything that you click on will show up over here. If you're not seeing the screen, this is at Ableton 11. you have the option of seeing the MIDI note or the WAV file, depending on which file you have. And then all of your automations, right? Your note expressions here. This is kind of talking about your pressure and sensitivity. So let's go ahead and get this to start off at 0 and go up about halfway there. Crunchy. Let's do that again. Make sure it's completely off there at the beginning. And that's pretty crunchy. I'm going to go ahead and take some of this off. Maybe take out some of the bottom part. Let's put some panning going on. And we're getting closer. So this could be a one hit that I can create at a certain moment in the song. The goal would be that we could kind of have something going on like the verse. I'll bring that down in volume so I can talk over the top of this a little easier. Just like that, to kind of create some variation. Put some more reverb and delay on that. So it looks like this one right here is pretty much turned off. Let's go ahead and turn this back on and solo it. Just make sure. All right, so this is kind of like what the drumming wants to do. I'll say this. Drummer example. Track. So we'll be muting this anyway for the drumming track, but we don't have any of this going on at all. All right, we're not hearing that at all. Why is that? Dun, dun, dun. All track not coming through. All right, looks like maybe our samples are not in here anymore. Okay, we're not going to actually use this one at all anyway, so let's just clean this up. So this is a headphone cue. We don't really need any count in at the moment, but if we did, it would be up here at the very top. Let's bring that up to the very top. So if I didn't want any click in my ear, I could put a count in right here and it would kind of put me in the tempo that I want. I'm actually going to have this click in my headphones and have it be Q out 3/4 instead of 1/2, going only to myself. So for now, let's just keep this simple down here. Our operator is something that we are using as a little slide. And we also found out that we're only going to be doing one song using these backing tracks here. And the other tracks we'll be playing live or looping in different ways. Bringing other things down here that we're not using. I'm just going to We're looking for CPU usage up here as well. And it's showing us that the CPU usage is pretty high, but it's not peaking at all. That's a good thing. All right. I'm still here working with you guys here, live on SF Garnish and the Garnish Music Network. It comes right back up again, previous. That's mostly what we're going to be using. And then breakdowns. Noticing there's some bleed in the vocals, so we can actually try and get rid of that a little bit if we can. Let's make sure we're on the right track here. I do like the sharper down here and just giving as much to our vocals as possible. Any track that you're focusing on has to be highlighted. Sharp vocals. Okay, a little bleed, but a lot better than it was. Bridge breakdown. Some sound effects. We might even try 2 of these at once. Making sure we're in the right scale. It is an A minor. It's good. Let's wet that up. Some reverb on it. Panning a little bit, left and right, bringing the volume down. So this is a part where folks in to out. So that's a nice little transition that we could have there. I also like to color code these specifically. Things on the right-hand side show up on the push session view. Really nice and easy. So when I come over here, the orange area is showing where my push is brought in. And I can see the different colors here of where these are at. I can also change this guitar 111 to being the name of what it is, which is guitar intro. So intro GTR. And then rename this to verse. And this to verse out, the different chords, and then the vocals only right here, which is the empty one. We are in record mode here. And if you don't want to record this live, we can just go ahead and remove the stop buttons. Removes the record buttons as well. This is a nice spot for the Let's see, do I have anything on this track here? Let's stop all and listen in. That I don't need, but this actually might be a nice thing we could put in to the vocal breakdown. Vocals only. And it says how many times right here. It says after 12, it's going to go down. All right, so being able to stop in the middle of a phrase here, instead of one bar, you can always change that to half a bar, for example, or a quarter note. So half bar would allow us to actually stop on the upbeat, right? So easy transition. Little breakdown. So I might put this to my Akai MPK Mini. I'm going to plug that in actually, so we can play around with that. Let's see. Do I have the chord ready? I don't have the chord ready. But that's what I would probably do, is just have a shortcut key just for this. You can also use your keyboard as that, Command K. Let's try that out. I'll put that as 1. Okay, so I can just bounce over to that whenever I want to and work on my transitions. The stop function on the push is also super helpful. So these as well, I'm going to put a add stop function so that when we're playing this, break it in. So obviously, phrase-wise, you have to really make sure that you're at the full phrase at your live show, or else you're cutting things off. You're noticing right here that our vocals are taking some processing. Vocal effects as well. So let's go ahead, if these are kind of what we want in general, let's go ahead and freeze these. Freeze tracks. Now the importance of freezing the tracks is that it's stopping the ability to change the effects in that track, and it will not use CPU usage or as much when you play it. It's just going to be kind of like a waveform that you can bring the gain up or down, but you can't change the EQ, which is what we did on that just a second ago. The benefit of that is that when we're hovering around 30 to 40% CPU in the upper right-hand corner, that it can hopefully come down to like 10 to 20, maybe 25 or something, by freezing the tracks that we don't want any automations or us to mess around with the EQ or different effects on those channels. What we do have are all of these frozen tracks are coming through the vocal effects channel, which is still engaging over here. So that is a pretty important part to understand, is that we can still do effects on all these because these are being sent through our master vocals group over here, right? And yeah, so I'll kind of open that up for you guys when this is done. This does take a little while in the process. This is just one of the things that you're going to need to do if you want to have, you know, a strong track without having it glitch out on accident at your live show. You really want to have everything dialed the way that you want it. And that's what we're doing here. This is for a show coming up November 4th, a Leonard Cojen Tribute show. And if you're interested in getting tickets, you can check that out at honeyoftheheart.com or Heather Normandale. That's who we're collaborating on a Thursday, November 4th in San Francisco. I'm Justin from SF Garnish Music Production, and I'm here every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So check it out, and we'll get the fans super stoked on what you're doing in your day with your music. If you guys have any questions, contact us at sf.garnishmusicproduction.com. And as you can see now, these are frozen tracks. They're kind of grayed, blued out here. It might look different for you if you have a different kind of view of your Ableton. There's, you know, different skins, I guess you could say. But these are all grayed out. And now when I play them, look at that. CPU usage markers completely down. Now, if you don't want to see these extra things, just go ahead and bring that down. But I'm purposely monitoring all of my CPU usage. This is only in 11 or above, right? 10 doesn't have this great function. Look at that. We're below 30%. Okay, we're getting better here. This is another track that I think we've processed enough. We have all of our EQ and compressions on it. Let's go ahead and freeze our beatboxing. So, like I said, this is one of the necessary parts of the process. This is all something that you can do if you're working on a track at home and you're done over here and you want to work over here, but your computer just can't handle it all. Just freeze what you've done, right? It'll play back accordingly, and then come up over here and work on your other stuff. Similar to a live show, really. I do have a lot of effects coming through here because we're going to have vocals being processed at the live show through Ableton that are automated. If you guys wanted any pointers on how to automate those vocals, check out our YouTube playlist called West Coast Wednesdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the past 3 episodes have been specifically kind of dialing this setup this month for next month's show. So as this is going, we might as well talk about what's going to happen in November. We have some special events coming up. Every Tuesday from 6 to 9 p.m. we have our Beer and Beats. It's a meetup at Soul Graffiti Studios and on our Zoom account. If you guys aren't in the Bay Area, you can still join us, have a beer, talk music, share your music, and we'd love to hear from you guys. It's a free event from 6 to 9 p.m. every Tuesday. So check that out in November and on. We are also getting guests, artists and musicians onto our West Coast Wednesday show and as guest teachers at our studio and our school. So stay tuned, sf.garnishmusicproduction. We have a bunch coming up for you guys. November 7th, we have a special live looping in Ableton session going on. I'll be doing that up here in the Sierra foothills. So contact me if you want to do that, sf@garnishmusicproduction.com. And here we are. Let's go ahead and play this now. Look at that CPU usage. It's still hovering pretty high. Let's find out who the culprit is. Who's the culprit? What is this one? Nothing really at all, right? So this is once again one that just frees it up. Yeah, really simple tracks. There's no reason to not have them frozen, right? Once we have just a basic utility on here, compression, EQ, chorus, a little bit of a limiter so it doesn't peak. And we'll go from there. All right. So what else to talk about as this is going on? We have our November 7th event. Okay. I'm not sure if it's going to be live streamed or not, but I am planning on doing an in-person session here in the Sierra foothills. If you guys are interested, contact me. It's going to be a little respite from the Bay, but we're still doing music wherever we are. And that happens to be in the Sierra foothills. Yeah, once we are in touch, I can give you the address, and we're meeting outside in a safe environment with some nice heaters, and we're using our QSC speakers with good playback. Thank you to QSC for sponsoring us as artists. And what else are we doing? We are going to be getting back into shows. November 4th, back in the Bay at Amados or Amados, not quite sure how to pronounce that, for the Leonard Cojen Tribute show. And look at this. So this obviously looks way different now right here, right? So right in front, you're looking at how kind of grayed out that is, that blue color. That means that I can't change any parameter in here, even if I tried, right? That's really just stopping me from doing that. You can always unfreeze a track too. It's something that you don't want to do during a show, but this is kind of your ability to have something playing. All right. So there we go. We're down to 25. That was our goal, right? We were talking about 10 to 20, maybe 25. We're getting there. Now, things that we can't freeze are these, and these are because these are the effects that we have engaging and disengaging. They're set to in mode. Like I said, go to our previous recordings on our YouTube to check out how I worked through there. Now we have extra tracks here we don't even need. Looking down through, nothing there. Deleting, selecting, and pressing the backspace. Let's see what else we can do. Let's go ahead and see what this is. So that's one that we are not using at the present moment, but we might. And this is a lead vocal, but it is a live vocal or lead vocal. See, this is the one that we were using before. Let's go ahead and just see what we zeroed out. Soloing that. Who in a lonely sled, and who in a lonely sled. This is actually playing it live. So this is kind of a dummy track. And it's still taking CPU usage just a little bit because it's there. I don't really want to get rid of it entirely because it's nice to have some like clips there as demonstrations for different moments. Like for example, the drummer track, right? We had just the basic beat that he wanted to play. Maybe there's something with the vocal effects and the vocals in there that we want to kind of remember. I'm going to freeze that and just kind of hide that. I'll kind of show you how I would do that in this moment. But once again, the freezing this track is allowing our CPU usage to go to the things that we want it to go to. And also, we're going to be deleting quite a bit of tracks here. Some of the live setups that I've seen have been really, down to just the nitty gritty, just a few tracks. But if you have a lot of tracks like this, why not freeze them and be able to open them back up again and start working on them, right? This is where, you know, maybe you perform a song before you're done working on it. You know, you're kind of refining for your live show. And then once it's gotten really good, then you kind of refine it for your studio album. It could be the same tracks, or you can overdub something else. But there's a really nice workflow that's coming from the digital audio workstation Ableton Live, between live shows and also like rehearsals and studio production, right? And putting that all together, bringing it in and out when you want them. All right, once again, this is all grayed out. Let's go ahead and just play this. No CPU usage here. This one is, it did for a second. Let's go ahead and just listen to this. What's going on here? Very minimal. Let's go ahead and just read. Little sound effects, clinks. I like it. I like it, I like it, I like it. Once again, though, we're going to have this super dialed, you guys. And I know this is kind of taking the whole hour here, but just to really bring it home, it's like this is pretty important stuff, right? If you are getting up and you're spiking between, you know, 40 to 70% CPU usage, your tone is going to change. It's really going to change. And something else too is that since we're going to be using live vocals effects through Ableton, we're going to have to stay with our latency buffer size down to like 128 or 256, which doesn't give us too much of a buffer, right? If there's any peaks with our CPU, we're going to really hear that. One thing that could help that is if we had our external hardware doing our effects, but we specifically for the show, really liking fade to gray, vocal delays, and the filters coming through Ableton. So that's why we're purposely going to be using the things inside of Ableton. I am surprised at how long this is taking to do on every track, but not to worry, we're doing this right. This MIDI track, empty, backspace that. What is this here? Let's solo it and see what's happening. Fun. I think I'm going to bring this down here. There could be a layer that I can bring in at a certain point, right? So I'll actually do Command K, bring this into my keyboard, and this will be my 2 layers. So I'll stop all. Oh, sorry, still muted. All right. Ooh, look at that. This is a big chunk of our CPU, is this track. All right, I'm really digging that. But I definitely want to freeze that. Here's a question. So once I freeze this, can I, you know, still mess around with bringing these to different spots? We will find out. All right, so our goal is to kind of bring this down to a very low CPU usage, even though we're doing live processing with our voice. And let's see what I'll be going through on November 7th in person between 6 and 9 p.m. I will actually do a live performance demonstration of using Ableton for a live scenario and looping. And then we will also get into creating your own, right? And taking some time on specifics, things that I have been going through here, but then you can kind of work on it on your own, get some feedback, ask some questions, and then we'll probably do that about 3 times, and we'll be drinking some beer in the process. We're going to go get some from Three Forks. We're not sponsored by them, but we should be. So once again, I can copy this, boom, and we can still move it around. So there is some flexibility even on a frozen track, right? You can still change the scenes around. All right, all right, all right. Vocals only. Pretty cool. Changing my volumes around still. Look at that. We're under 25% now in our CPU usage. Not bad, y'all. And we can fade out. So just like that, I have my fade to gray of all channel put on right there, and I can bring that in and out when I want to, or my master. Let's go ahead and see what our master is looking like here. Yep. So we have these right here. Okay, so any questions, contact us, 510-463-GROW, 510-463-GROW. Ask us questions. We're doing a free 30-minute consultation to anyone that calls, talking about your music. So contact us. We have classes year-round at our schools worldwide, and we have some new Ableton workshops starting up in the coming weeks here. I do like this group here. Of these instruments. Here's something we should try out. Can we actually freeze these tracks and still use them? And the answer is no, right? So freezing those tracks really takes away our ability to play it live. Okay, so we're going to unfreeze those. You're mostly trying to freeze tracks that you already have stuff to. All right. So it's looking a little bit better here, but still kind of busy. This is that lead I was talking about that we froze. We're going to bring that in, right? Just hide that. Let's go ahead and look at this one here. Selecting and pressing 0 and soloing. Okay, so we have same thing here, is that this all is something that I can freeze. These are just kind of backing stuff that we are not going to be using at this next show, but it's a nice kind of demo for ourselves just to remember where we're at in the future if we want to come back to this again and produce it more. Like I said, the transition between the live show in studio and the rehearsals, it's really, it's very fluid, right? If you also can go between arrangement and session view, people ask the question, do you start in arrangement view or do you start in session view? And it really depends, right? On the song and how you're doing it. Do you have a lot of, instruments already tracked and planned out? Maybe you start in arrangement view. It's the same thing with like lyrics versus melody or drums versus rhythm of a guitar rhythm or something for a song. It's like, it really depends on your mood, the vibe. Probably the best tool is to be able to start where your inspiration is coming from, to start from arrangement view or start from session view. Just if you have that inspiration, don't be limited by your knowledge of Ableton, right? It's like you only know arrangement view, learn session view or vice versa, right? So that's what we're trying to really do here, is kind of ground in here and get these things going on. So our cue as well is something that we're not going to use for the show. Let's go ahead and just freeze this track. Pretty easy to freeze because there's not too much on it. And we do have some live automations right here going on. So we'd be having these engaged, right, when we're doing our live show. And our sound effects, this is our drum example. We can just freeze these tracks. I thought I already did that, but I will do it now. So we're getting closer. Look at this. So it's already kind of in idle mode. It's at 10%. I saw it before at like 13 to 15%. And then when we play this next time, we should be doing a lot better because we have all of these frozen tracks. All right. So something else that I encourage you to do is try copying and pasting from session view to arrangement view, from arrangement view to session view, working on automations from different sections, because there's benefits and drawbacks to different sides of it. and the different views. One of the things that I really love about arrangement view is you can plus and bring all the different effects automations right in front of your face. You can kind of see which effects are affecting different things, right? You might be working on your EQ, but your fade to gray keeps coming in and you're like squishing, filtering everything out. Anyways, you want to know when that's happening. So opening that up can definitely help out in arrangement view. Once you know session view as well, you can kind of just look for those red dots. I'll give you an example, right? It's like when you're here, and let's go through something that has some automations. I think I have automations on here. No. Here we go. So looking for these red dots. Anything with a red dot means that we have some automations on it. This is purposely taking beat masher off. Fade to gray is kind of going up and down there. All right, so we're at, look at that, hovering at 8 or 9% CPU usage. We're looking a lot better. It's a lot more contained. Our sub hip hop is still not frozen. Let's go ahead and freeze that as well. And then we're going to demonstrate probably something using the highest CPU usage for a show, which would be singing through a track that has some automations and looking at our CPU usage. This is a great test before a show on, what's using your CPU usage so that you can have that quality audio effects. Obviously back in just the hardware days, which we're not totally over hardware, right? But when you're using hardware, you don't really have to worry about that just because the hardware is set up to where it just does the exact effects it can, and it can never go above and beyond that. Ableton has this box where you can go beyond what the box is even saying, right? Like how much CPU usage you have. And it's just saying like, you can expand out, but give yourself that area to expand, if that makes sense. If you guys just joined us, welcome. We're freezing tracks for our live show so that our CPU usage is going to stay low. We just ran into this at the rehearsal where we didn't have this all frozen yet, and it bounced up to like 74%, and it just wasn't sounding good. It would actually slow the tempo down. So really got to make sure this is dialed. Let's go ahead and try one. Hovering about between 20 and 25. Pretty doable. Now there's another thing. Let's go Command comma, right? Our shortcut to preferences. And let's just look at what our audio settings are at. We're at 128 samples. So our latency and buffer size is very low. Okay. If I had this up here at like 1024, for example, this is something you can do if you are not doing any live vocal or instrument effects, okay? Or you're just mixing music. Let's go ahead and just do this for a second, just to show you. Look at that. So our CPU usage changed all the way down to 15, just like that. Because what it's telling, it's cutting it more, right? More times. All the ones and zeros are cut up more to make the more precise sound, the sample rate. But there's a latency. We're not hearing the latency because there's nothing saying where the actual one is versus what's playing, right? An example of this, let's go ahead and just put my voice just through this track. Okay, this is why we don't want to do something at 1,000 buffer sample rate size, because with a live vocal. Let's go ahead and just turn this on. I'm going to make sure that you guys only hear that track. So we have some effects stuck on right now. Let's go ahead and turn that off. All right. So what we're hearing here is actually, it's not that bad in this moment. I'm actually pretty surprised. It's a pretty fast computer. I think I'm at 32 gigs of RAM or something. So it should take quite a bit. If I go ahead and turn on the actual mic that you were hearing, right, you're going to hear that kind of a little bit of a chorus, right? You're going to hear what's real time through my audio interface and then what's coming through Ableton. And that's how much delay there is in my instrument. Let's go ahead and just beatbox to that a little bit. All right, so now we have that, and let's go ahead and change this now. Noticing that my voice disappears in that moment. And I'll bring it back now. Okay, so when I freeze, you don't do that at a live show because you will lose your voice entirely. We just got an example of that, right? I also like to have these right here, where if I go ahead and press this, it automatically takes that fade to gray and brings it to 0. So if I ever kind of stop it at a higher point. Okay, so you guys are still with me. I just froze this track here. Gonna bring that down. We're not even really working on that. And I want to open up a new audio track. And I'm going to say drum bounce. And I'm seeing 3 different levels. I have just beatbox, I have beatbox in this pad, and then I have beatbox, this pad, and this guy, or just this guy alone. So 4 levels. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go ahead and just solo this and bounce it down. So this is how you bounce down. We are going to drum bounce. We're going to send this just to the drum bounce. I'm just going to go ahead and keep my voice on for you guys here, just because I was in record with my voice to be heard otherwise. But this is working out. Okay, so we are in drum bounce. If we wanted to hear this, let's go ahead and make sure this is going to audio from V3 beatbox. That's what we want. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is record and play this. Let's go ahead and try this out. Noticing that we're not hearing this yet, we could actually hear this now. And notice we're just doing that one now. Okay, so with this next one, instead of drums, it's from Beatbox V3, we want this from our drums all channel. Let's see if we can do that. Drums all. All right, so notice that this will record anything that comes through here. And we have actually this extra sound as well. Let's try this out now. Count in. All right. We had some feedback. Woo. Okay, let's find out what was going on there. Okay, check this out. So we actually recorded that feedback. This could actually be a really cool thing. I will bring this down and just save this, because this is how you create some crazy effects. Putting through that some distortion, etc., etc. But for now, I'll zero that out. So here we go. So this drum bounce is actually in drums all. That's what happened. So let's go ahead and bring this out of drums all. That's where we had a loop feedback chain. Okay, now it's going on its own. Let's try that out again. And record mode. 2, 3, 4, and boom. I'm gonna have to do it as long as this whole thing, okay? This is another thing that's really important. You gotta do it the whole length, otherwise you will not get all the sounds. And this is where, so notice how we just put this onto a track that doesn't have any effects on it at all, right? We've already done this processing over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just save this as something new so we can move on and know that we can always go back to this at any point. So now it's 03. So now I'm not going to really worry about freezing these tracks. I've just bounced these down to the areas that I want. I'm not worried about you know, things that are hidden or not. This track's not even being used. Let's make sure we have everything we want here. Do I have? All right. So all of these, let's go ahead and make these the colors that we want. Changing these up. So this is kind of like the intro beatbox. And this duplicates down. And then we have this other one coming twice. Same color. And then the effect drums is something else. So about 3 different levels here. Okay. Going back into drums all. Notice all of this is taking up that space now. Just go ahead and let's play this again. It's about 22, 23. Okay, let's see what happens now. Obviously, will look cleaner. When I take that out, we have our drum bounces right here. Our drum example for the live show. I don't think we need that. Well, we haven't practiced with the drummer yet, so maybe let's keep that in there. All right, we're almost done here, but we're getting down to a cleaner set. Go. All of our vocals can be the exact same thing. These can all be bounced down. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up. So all of these can literally just be one take of something mixed together. Let's go ahead and do that. Audio track. Vocals bounce. So vocals all is going to be sent to vocals bounce. I just created drum bounce. Where's vocals bounce? There we go. Sorry if that's small for you guys. And we're going to record enable this side, making sure that we go to the right channel now, which is audio from vocals all. Okay, let's go ahead and just try this out. 3, 4, and shall I say is calling. Say is calling. Who shall I say? Notice how these are all the same thing, right? We don't even need 2 of these, right? It's the exact same track. You can see it down here. So let's go ahead and just duplicate this. And sorry, these 2 are going to be different because we have this little beatbox in here. Let's do that real quick. 3, 4, and who shall I say is calling? So right there, we have these two. Okay, almost there. And we're going to just change the color of those. Let's make it something different. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, our vocals all just got super small. Our bounces, smaller yet again. Now, our guitar was just one channel here. So that's all we have for that. This is not frozen yet. Is this frozen? Look at that. Our CPU is down to 4 or 5. Okay, it's saying like, this is way easier to process. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're freezing the track that we just got there. And let's go ahead and freeze our guitar as well. Freeze track. So this is great where we're getting to here. Like I think we were idling at like 13 to 15% CPU. We're now idling at 3 to 5% CPU. This is way better. So once again, we're dialing back a session from a rehearsal to bring it to a live show, right? There's even some things where we started to filter out some of our backing sounds because we actually recorded this in a room with the other sounds going on a little bit. It's okay to actually do that as long as you can filter out the right frequencies, or you can just re-record. But these are all just kind of quick tips to go from the studio or rehearsal into a live show and then bring that back to the studio again and like finish off your song with that much more going on. My name's Justin Ancheta. I'm going to be ending here in just a moment. We really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you in the near future at one of our workshops at SF Garnish Music Production. Let's go ahead and just play this for a second and see where our CPU usage is at.
Who shall I say is calling?
All right. Put our effects on.
Who shall I say is calling?
All right. Way better. Look at this. Way smaller. Now, even this instrument right here, right, we can even bring this down to something even smaller again. Okay, this could literally just be an instrument within an instrument rack per se. So another idea for another show. Actually, why don't we try and do that in November with y'all? So thank you guys so much for being with us. My name is Justin Ancheta from West Coast Wednesdays, SF Garnish Music Production and Soul Graffiti Studios. Thank you to the Garnish Music Network for having us out for West Coast Wednesdays, every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We look forward to seeing you in the near future. Have safe musicking, y'all. Take care.